Uh,
Hello and welcome once again to Beyond the Physical with me, your host, Sitara. I am here with a dear friend of mine, Daven Michaels. He is I think I heard the first time I think the first time we met, might have heard you say that you are a self-made millionaire, which is an incredible accomplishment. You have written and published over 10 books. I know that you've used that to leverage that in your business. And so I know you have a very specific area of expertise in helping people to, I mean, scale is such like a hot topic, hot word here, but really be able to expand their impact and expand their message to reaching a larger audience. And so I'm also excited to celebrate with you that in the last year you published or you launched your own publishing company. So I'm excited to hear all of this. Davin, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you'd
my
like to
pleasure.
add to your experiences and anything that we should know about what you have been able to create in this world?
Well, it's great to be here with you, and I'm sure I did not tell you I'm a self-made millionaire. I wouldn't toot my horn that way, but no, I'm an entrepreneur. I have been for 3 decades, and I used to think my story was extraordinary until I've spoken all over the world to so many entrepreneurs. They all have extraordinary stories. If you're an entrepreneur, you have an extraordinary story, or if you aspire to be one, I'm sure you have one. So, I just love people and enjoy hearing their stories. So it's really awesome to be here with you.
Yes, and I will absolutely correct that those words did not come out of your mouth. I think I probably,
Uh,
found
maybe,
it
maybe,
yeah,
yeah, or maybe they announced
found
it
it
from
in the
stage
ethers.
or something. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Um, but just that alone. So beyond the
Yeah,
physical, what we're talking about here is, the expansion of human consciousness and how that is influencing the leading edge of technology and vice versa. And
yeah,
so when we talk about doing something self-made, I think that speaks to a lot of the people that are here in the sense that it doesn't matter where it is that we've come from or where we were born, but when there's like a hope and a dream and a vision to be able to create that with the resources that we have available. And I know that you are doing some really extraordinary connecting with the people that you're collaborating with and connecting with now in being able to bring those resources to so many people and visionaries and getting their word out there. So can you share a little bit about that with us as well?
yeah, for sure, absolutely. And I am self-made. I definitely did not come from a silver spoon background. I started my business when I was 15, and I never really looked back. I was an only child. My parents didn't really have a handbook for raising me, so they did an extraordinary job. But they let me do my thing, and they really encouraged me to do just about anything. Some of the stuff was, kind of smart, and the others were really stupid, and I learned from them. But yeah, at 15, I started my business. I've been in business now for myself for decades, and like I said, it's been an entrepreneur story. I'll share my background a little bit. My very first business, I designed clothing for music groups. This was in the early 80s. And my groups really had nothing going on. Most were playing their garage. But an amazing thing happened a short while after we opened for business. MTV came on the air, changed the face of music and saved their lives. So I was working with bands that had nothing going on. Within about 90 days, most of my bands had record deals. And within a year they were selling millions of albums, and we were playing in stadiums. I mean, it was really an extraordinary story. We were traveling with these bands. It was cool. My second business was not as glamorous. I had a telecommunications company, but 5 years later we sold it out to a public company and took back some equity in that deal, and that was really a moment in time that changed my life. um, then I was the biggest EDM event producer in the US for many years. And I parlayed that into a short career as a recording artist, long career as a music and television producer, produced for about 15 years. And then I started a little company almost 15 years ago in the Philippines, a company called 123 Employees, which was very challenging in the early days. We were first to market. People seem to think, that typically people think that first to market, means home court advantage, that there's an upside to it, but I really disagree. I always say you can always tell who the pioneers are because they're the ones with the arrows in their back, and that was definitely us in the early days. But we muddled through it, and today we're part of a conglomerate with thousands and thousands and thousands of employees from 3 continents. And then, like you said, I did start my publishing company last year. written 10 books. 10th book is in the bookstore right now, and so we were offered national distribution deal, and so now we're helping others with their books. So in the early days of my book business, and I'll just preface this by saying nothing has grown and helped me scale my business more than writing books and leveraging bestseller status. And so I'm a New York Times bestselling author, Wall Street Journal, USA, all those different fields. And it changed everything in my business, all of my businesses. Today I have a massive following. If I launch something, it takes off quickly because we have that fan base. We have a community, if you will. And in the early days of doing books, it was very hard for me. I wanted a major publishing deal so bad, and nobody would give me one. I couldn't get a publishing deal. I couldn't get a lawyer. I couldn't get an agent, because they all wanted to know one thing, and that was what was my platform. Major publishers want to know how many books you can sell, because they're not really going to help you sell your books. They will at a certain level, but not initially. And so they want to know how many books you can sell and how you're going to sell them. And in the early days, I didn't have a platform. It was hard. I couldn't get that publishing deal. It was hard writing my first book. There were just a lot of obstacles in my way. It was hard to become a top tier best-selling author. And so last year we launched my publishing house. It's called Michael's Press. And we're really focused on helping entrepreneurs and people who have big messages shortcut everything, whether it's the writing of the book, which we do at our 1-month Guatemala book writers retreat, which is awesome. Boy, it's so right up your alley. I know we'll talk a lot more about this because you would love this. And then we also do multi-author books, and those books are with me, and I kind of, because I have such a big base now, I automatically hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller status or bestseller list, and that's what happens to our authors. They become Wall Street Journal bestsellers. So like I said, nothing has moved the needle more in my business than, writing books and becoming a bestseller. So try to help other people do the same.
Well, it sounds like with your experience, that is really saying a lot. I know that entrepreneurs, like, we're a rare breed. It's, that we cannot take no for an answer. We're going to keep forging through. There's always a path. It's like there's just part of that, genetic and personality encoding that's, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way and I'm going to make it happen. So to hear that, creating a book and creating, a message, and we actually have someone here on the summit who is a book doula, a book coach or a book doula. And we spoke a lot about how that creating, like bringing the message of the book comes through from that internal space of, what is between the words, and that message that I would say similar to being an entrepreneur. There's like a natural drive, and there's a natural drive to want to publish a book and want to write that really becomes almost an obsession and unavoidable. Like you can't not get it out there. So to hear that you have, these incredible opportunities to go and be with a network of writers and to be in a very powerful, hotspot and ley line to be able to have these books come out. And part of the thing also that I've experienced with the book writing process is like how, like you're saying, how many obstacles start to come up also as we expand to the person that is birthing these messages and, getting them out into the world. It's like it shapes so much of who we become in that process as well. So to be in a place like Guatemala, that's a bassinet, a nurturing place to go through the metamorphosis of becoming a published author is also something that is, it's just exquisite. It's exquisite that opportunity is there and that you've really created a space where there are experienced experts that are supporting these visions of the visionaries and entrepreneurs that have come to you or found you in
absolutely. Absolutely. Authors, one of the challenges or the first challenge they have in their authoring career is writing the book, right? And unfortunately I have bad news for them, and that is it's probably the easiest thing you'll do in your book writing career, but still it is obviously the biggest hurdle. And so many people feel like they have a book inside them, but they don't always, like you said, birth it. I love that term. So I would love to, so first of all, I'll talk about my process. So I have, everybody has their different way of getting that book out of them. For me, I spent a lot of time on airplanes. And so when I'm on transatlantic flights, that's where I write. And I'm an okay writer, but the content is key for me. And so I really spit it out. So I pretty much write fast and furiously, and then we give it to our editors and we let them do the editing, and then I revamp from there. So that's kind of my process. But as much as I'd like to take credit for our Guatemala book writers retreat, it was actually created by my partner, Michael Drew. So Michael is the #1 book strategist in the world. No one on the planet has more New York Times, Wall Street Journal, or USA Today bestsellers under his belt, over 126. And he and I are best amigos for well over a decade. And we launched the company last year. We've worked on campaigns together for the last decade, though. And it was Michael's brainchild. And he really kind of stumbled onto it. He was spending a lot of time in Guatemala. It's interesting. My girlfriend, Liz, is Guatemalan, but she'd never been to Guatemala. So it was cool once we started doing these retreats to, go back to the homeland for Liz. But have you been to Guatemala yet?
I have not.
You have
No.
not. Okay. Well, you would
Yeah.
love Guatemala, for a lot of reasons. It's a spiritual center. It is absolutely stunning. Some of the most amazing natural beauty I've ever seen. Tons of ayahuasca ceremonies. It's kind of like a Peru. I mean, it's very, very spiritual, beautiful. I'm just very peaceful, serene place that is absolutely conducive to the creative process. Now, it is very poverty stricken. It is very third world. The poverty is striking for sure, but people are lovely, and it's really a cool place. And so it's a great setting. But also Michael, my partner, has a lot of learning disabilities. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. But because he had learning disabilities growing up, he had to kind of come up with processes and systems to learn and to be creative. And so he created a process that kind of shuts down one side of the mind, the logical side of the mind, and expands the creative side of the mind. And that's what we do. This is the process that we do in Guatemala. And in Guatemala, I mean, it's hard for people to get away for a month. So, it's not for everyone, but people come, they get away for a month. They're still able to work on their business. They're not cut off. We have Wi-Fi and so on and so forth. And we teach them a bit, but most of the time is spent writing. And then on the weekends, we do some fun stuff like an ayahuasca ceremony, optional, and some different tours of different areas of the island and so on and so forth. And then, of course, for our people that can't come out for a month, we do it virtually as well. But yeah, it's a great place to write a book. We actually have people come back. So, people learn our process. They know how to write a book now. They don't technically need us, but they'll come back and do a second book with us, which is really, I feel like that's a testament to the process. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so curious to hear that that your partner had learning disabilities, because this is actually the third person that I've interviewed just on this summit that has written a book and published something. One was for an Oracle card deck, and then another is the book publisher, or not book publisher, but the book doula, who I personally worked with like 5 years ago. And they had both said that they had dyslexia and never would have assumed that they would write a book. So
Yeah.
just kind of out of curiosity and musing on that, do you have any like suspicions as to why that might be, that these are people who have like made a career or put something in that direction of writing and publishing and putting things into the world with those disabilities?
I think there may be some correlation, but I think the reality is just a lot of people have learning disabilities. And up until a few decades ago, 3, 4 decades ago, that was undiagnosed, right? But now it can be diagnosed, and so many smart thinkers have come along and bridged this and came up with different ways, and or sometimes it's drugs, but a lot of time it's just processes and different approaches to learning to make it work. And like I said, Michael I think he has over 50 learning disabilities, and you would never, I don't even know how you have 50 learning disabilities, but you would never guess it. It's literally one of the most intelligent human beings I've ever met. He certainly dwarfs me in intelligence. So, just because somebody has a learning disability doesn't mean they can't be brilliant. So go figure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean my association with him was, I did watch the interview that you did with him speaking about the Guatemala retreat, and yeah, I had an absolutely incredible impression.
Oh my gosh, he's so smart, and yeah, he's a genius.
I'd say one of the suspicions that I have in that, especially being looped into the coaching network and psychic and human development as well as psychology over my career, my journey, what I've noticed is that people often teach the medicine that they need. It's like
For
we
sure.
teach what it is that we are working towards
For sure.
embodying. And so that like mess, it's like make your mess your message. We've heard that before, but
Right.
I often find that the biggest challenges that we have in our life, especially those who are guided and natural teachers, we have those challenges so that we understand the intricacies of them from the inside out to be able to teach and be a way shower, which would also explain a lot of, your entrepreneurial endeavors. And I'm sure, there's been some failures and face plants and big lessons along the
Yep.
way that
Yep.
have helped you be a role model and somebody that, people look to for advice on their journey as well, because it's like your wisdom can shortcut the path. And I think a lot of that is also contributing to the quickening that we're experiencing on this journey, or this
Yeah.
life that we're in
No,
now.
for sure, for sure. And I always say, if you can find somebody that, no matter like what you've done, what you've created, what idea you have, there's always somebody that's walked before you in one way, shape, or form, right? And if you can align yourself with that person or persons, grab onto their belt buckle, they'll take you there faster, right? There's a shortcut to everything. And now we're even seeing that with AI, as AI is sort of becoming one of our mentors, right?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because that's part of the topics of why we're here is the digital revolution and how entrepreneurs and people that have visions can access AI. Because AI is kind of like this ominous, like maybe dark entity, this like oogie boogie that's like with coming with some ferocity into the world right now.
Right.
But you have a very, very specific, I would say, leading edge expertise and community that you have built around being able to talk to the people who are actually curating and creating this technology. So
Yeah.
to start, like, what is your perspective and how do you see just AI in general?
Yeah, so I see it, gosh, on so many levels, right? We're all having this conversation. First of all, it is dramatically increasing my revenue. I can tell you that, and I'll tell you a couple of ways how. So, I'm a marketer and I have millions of people that follow me, and we sell them stuff. And sometimes it's stuff that we've created, stuff from our own company. But who is your best client? There's so many businesses that are always chasing their next client, but your best client is your current client. And once your client knows, like, and trusts you, there's a myriad of other things that they would purchase from you if only you had it to sell. But for me, like, there's a lot of things that my clients would buy from me, but I don't want to be in 47 different businesses. That would create a lack of focus. You stay in your lane. That's how you thrive and scale. Um, so we sell these through our joint venture partners, and it's great because they pay us, we make some money. Our joint venture partners have another channel of revenue, and our clients get products and services from trusted sources, and they know that if they're unhappy, and they don't get satisfaction, they'll come back to me for so they have recourse. And so one way we've just seen it is we have seen 100% growth in our sales that is anything AI related. So if we do like an AI offer through one of our partners, we double the amount of people that show up to the events online. These are all online events. We have double the amount of sales. So already that's just, added a lot of extra money, which is very cool. I love that. Every day I'm exposed to some new technology that either can potentially make us more money and or gets rid of jobs. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So we have a full-time copywriter on our staff. Technically, we don't need him to write copy for us anymore, right? We do not. So his job is toast, but he's a super bright guy, and he's made himself valuable to us in many more ways than just copywriting. So he keeps his job, which is great, and which I want to happen. But so many other people that are writing copy, I mean, the writing's on the wall, right?
Mhm.
So we've done all these things that have enhanced, the way we do business. Every day there's something new. I literally, before this call, I was on a call with a group that has built a bot to generate more leads, and it was genius. But the crazy thing too is that this is all moving so quickly that my dev team, because I have a small dev team I have for a decade, they could build this, like, I don't know, in a couple of weeks. So So, I mean, it's just moving so rapidly. I was watching an interview the other day, and I think they said over this, I thought this was a very interesting statistic. This was on 60 Minutes, so it's a vetted statistic that over the next 24 months, 80 million jobs will evaporate. 80 million. That's monstrous. But this was the interest that was not the interesting stat, believe it or not, because I think we all know that, right? I mean, especially with autonomous vehicles, you start getting rid of cars and trucks and transport. You're talking about the biggest job loss in the history of the planet. That's what's about to happen. Okay. But the interesting statistic was not that. The interesting statistic was 80 million jobs will evaporate and 100 million jobs will be created. So net 20 million. Now, I have to tell you, I found that stat hard to believe. Are you telling me that all the people that are driving Ubers and driving trucks are going to start writing code? No. And besides that, there's no need to write code anymore because AI can write its own code, right? Of course, there's a certain amount of jobs that just get created all the time, right? As there's more new enterprise and what have you, and the world expands. But I found that pretty interesting. I don't believe that there'll be a net 20 million new jobs, but what do I know, right? I'm not a statistician, and it's not my wheelhouse. But I mean, look, we're all seeing it. I also, we're also worried about where AI can go. And I heard very interesting information on how AI could help create wars, help the world get annihilated. So it's pretty intense. But I mean, look, we're all having these crazy heady conversations about AI, but it's a huge game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And also the interesting thing is everybody's already using AI. There's plenty of people who are like, oh, I don't understand this AI thing. I think this was another stat I heard. We're all using like 18 AI apps a day, whether we know it or not, because it's all in everything we do, from our Siri to Google to you name it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two things that I wanted to share. One is I spent the entire pandemic in Bali. A lot of very natural people, a lot of channelers, a lot of I would say healers and light workers. There was I would say a general consensus more of like fear around what is the metaverse and what is the capabilities, and just specifically focusing on the metaverse, which I know is a little different than AI. But one of the things was that when I was in Dubai, I did a reading with someone who was a CEO of, or not CEO, but co-founder of a metaverse company. And so I did a reading with him, and what I was able to see was that there was an energy of Mother Earth that was expressing her relief for this technology, that the resources that were coming out of her to, for transportation, for single serving food, for all of this stuff, it was like, well, there was a relief to be able to have these meeting room spaces and these creation spaces that were happening virtually. And so for me, it helped soften my guard and the fear around what's going on with the digital revolution, as well as doing readings with some people who are creating the platforms for token economies and the liquidity between token economies, that sort of thing. I was able to read them and see that their sole purpose and their encoding was to be here to bring that technology. And so those were two very poignant times for me where my fear around it, just personally, from how do I feel about it and what's going on, shifted into, well, let's have the conversations and interview the people that are doing this so that people can see that it's a very valuable resource, like you're saying, to be able to continue to create and share messages and share that impact. So one of my questions for you on that is, we've seen hype cycles with technology. We've seen hype cycles with NFTs. We've seen hype cycles with .com. We've seen hype cycles with all this stuff. So what is your perspective or like prediction around what's going on with AI, since you're really having conversations with the people that are distributing and creating it?
Yeah, I mean, AI is definitely not hype. That's for sure. I mean, there's some hype on the consumer level, but it's absolutely the future. To me, there's a little more hype on metaverse, but anyways, that's just,
I'll agree with you on that one.
but there are plenty of people in the gaming space that would that would completely disagree with me, right? So, unfortunately, my crystal ball is a little fuzzy when it comes to that. So, yeah,
Mhm.
but AI is definitely not a fad. I mean, it's permeating every aspect of business right now. Or of anything. You can use it for almost anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, I would lean towards agreeing with you on that. Even, with the dot-com bubble or whatever, we're still using all the technology that was brought, and that's really where I see AI as well. It's that it's just becoming more and more an integral part of the world that we're living in. The other thing around just kind of speaking to that like ominous fear around AI is such a broad term. It's like there's so many things that fit under that umbrella of what is AI. And so when you're talking about using it as a resource, let's say to even market a book that's published and getting that word out there, there's so many opportunities. And I'm going to go there a little bit and speak to what's already going on with, let's say,
Yeah.
the powers that be with like Meta and Google and stuff. The level of AI technology that is already being used without us knowing, and also being used, like we talk about data and data being mined here and there. There's so much that's already happening that the general public has no idea about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a scary thing, but it is definitely guiding decisions and choices. And so I'd love to hear your perspective and just kind of speaking to that and what's already there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to create so much opportunity for us, but it is a scary thing. Absolutely. I can tell you how we're kind of looking at it in our own business in our publishing company. Okay, so now, I mean, technically, you could have AI write a book for you, right? And so for us, we are actually starting to incorporate AI in the way we create books with our people in Guatemala. And and the reason we're doing that is, look, if you just write a straight up AI book, you're gonna have an AI book. I mean, it's not gonna be a great read, you know. We
Yeah.
anticipate that. So last year there were 1,076,000 new books that were published, and we estimate that'll probably double in the next year. Why? Because it's possible, right? But there's gonna be a lot of junk on the market. But we use AI really for one reason in our book writing retreat, which we're starting to use it now. And it's not to create a better book. Well, sorry, when I say one, I guess there's two. So one is research. We absolutely use it for research because it cuts down the research time for sure. But the only other reason we use it is not to write the book. It's just to make sure that everybody completes their book. Because in the past, sometimes people wouldn't finish it up in the month and they'd stretch it out and so on and so forth. And we don't want somebody left behind. So that's what AI helps us do internally.
Mhm.
And then on the marketing side, well, we're using it in so many different ways on the marketing side. It's interesting. So the AI is teaching us and we're teaching the AI. So like I remember I asked Chat GPT, what would you do for this type of funnel? And it gave me some different steps. No, I'm sorry. I was feeding it. I told ChatGPT, I said, I'm creating this funnel, I'm doing this, 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 this. And then later I was like, well, what would you do for this funnel? And it was using the things that I do, my secret sauce now. So now everybody's got my secret sauce, right? So it certainly levels the playing field, right? Because just like the internet leveled the playing field, now AI is leveling the playing field. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you can almost get like a PhD level of education from YouTube now. And that's not really
Yeah,
an exaggeration.
no, YouTube has totally become YouTube University. It's the best way to learn things, or one of the best ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And it's like being able to use, and this is like the core message that I really want to share with entrepreneurs through this summit, is that when we're able to learn how these systems work and use them to our advantage, that's
yeah,
why they're here. And so if we're using them to our advantage, and if you're believing in yourself and you have a message to share with the world, and there's something that is just that drive, that life force that just won't go away. I know I have it. I'm sure you do too. But it's like these resources are coming in the way that I see it in supporting the quickening of the Great Awakening and the access to resources and the access of higher level education, that leading edge of consciousness that is human development. And as I saw it through my experiences in Bali with wildly talented channels and healers, and then also in Dubai with people who are just absolute technological geniuses, and how like the cross pollination of those two industries is so important. And that's really what I started to see is, you know, my own lane is starting to interweave this network of visionaries and using the technology to continue to spread the message of the heart-centered healing that I think a lot of people are even looking for answers on, and answering those existential questions of like, what's going on our planet, you know, who can we
Totally.
trust, what's around the
Totally.
next corner.
Yeah.
uh,
Also, the technology makes us smarter too. So as a
yes.
collective, people are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. It's really, I mean, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
we're
cool.
adapting and we know how to process more energy and more information. Much, I mean, I've been feeling like I'm living through like a week in a day, or I'm living like there's just so much happening so much more quickly now. And also what I will say, little side note, is that as that energy is moving through, I actually feel like I'm looking younger. This is a
I
little
feel, I
aside.
mean, I was just commenting before we did the interview how great you look. So I think you're looking younger too.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
really I just attest to it being in this field of the excitement and finding that connection to your mission. And so I think, you know, as we start to get to wrap this up, one of the closing thoughts that I would like to share is that inspiration. Like we have fatigue and we have these weird diseases and complacency and lack of drive when you don't have a mission, when you haven't connected to that internal space of your life force energy of what you came into this world to do. And Daven, I really want to commend you, just one, in encouraging to listen to the call of where, you know, life has led you, because I know that you're serving so many people in so many ways, especially with the book and getting the book and the message out there, because that really can be a hurdle for a lot of people. So shortcutting that is such a beautiful thing. But I know that there are so many people that really look up to you and admire what you're doing in sharing, you know, their visions, but also making their visions accessible through the technologies that you're sharing, and just through how you're doing it. And not to mention how many jobs you have also been able to create by means of supporting other visions. Like the ecosystem that you've created in your life so far is truly nothing short of extraordinary. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Of course. Of course. Yeah.
Yes. And is there
Yeah.
anything, any kind of final thoughts or anything that you would like to share before we close up this session?
Yeah. So we actually didn't talk too much about books, but you know, books have had such a huge impact on all of my businesses over the years. It's funny, my first book was, I call it my Citizen Kane because it was actually my most successful book. That one generated tens of millions of dollars. And that one was actually self-published. It wasn't even my first published book. So you know what we could do too is we're actually at Michael's Press, we're going to be holding a training where we're going to kind of peel back the curtain and show how I used all my books to leverage, you know, all the different businesses and generate tens of millions of dollars and spread such a huge message and build such a big global brand. We'll just give out that link. Can I give it out here or should we? Yeah. Okay. So if you
Yeah,
go to, yeah,
it'll be in
you know, we'll put it in the show notes.
we'll
Perfect.
put it in the show notes. It'll be there. It'll
Perfect.
be
Let's do
super
that.
easy to
Yep.
access.
Easy. Great.
Do you have a date on when that is, or will that information just be there in the link?
It'll all be in the link, and
Okay.
yeah, we'll show like all the different book funnels I created and what we're doing in Guatemala and what we're doing in Michael's Press, and it'll be a huge learning experience for all of you people that feel like you have a book inside you, or if you've already written
Amazing.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's also kind of like a missed pocket in the industry is people that have written the book thinking that the book is going to do what you have said, and then it's like
right.
it kind of just
Now
doesn't,
what?
you know, it's like where's
Yeah.
the gas?
The now what is the harder part actually, but it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be. So yeah, we'll show how to bridge that.
Amazing. Well, I'm sure if anybody knows how to reconcile that little gap, it is definitely you.
Thank
So
you.
absolutely, if you're listening, click all the links below, connect with Daven, get on his mailing list. I mean, your network is so extraordinary. And I think just how you move through the world and how you connect with people and also share so many powerful ideas it's nothing short of extraordinary. So truly, 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 thank you for all that you have been creating and curating and all the support that you have been showing to so many people. I mean, it is just such a blessing and such an honor to have you here with us and for you to share your time because I know it is so valuable. So,
The honor is all mine. Thanks so much, and appreciate all of you out there as well too.
yes, absolutely. All right. So, those who are listening, thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next interview. Ciao, ciao.